Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. So today we are looking into what has to be one of antiquity's most perplexing cold cases. We're talking about a historical enigma that's got it all, right? Unimaginable wealth, a massive empire, a literally legendary conqueror, and the ultimate vanishing act. Today we are focusing entirely on a mystery that has completely baffled archaeologists and historians for centuries. Why exactly did Alexander the Great's tomb just vanish from the face of the earth? Okay, let's dive into this. Because seriously, how do you lose the tomb of history's greatest conqueror? We aren't talking about some forgotten peasant here, or a minor noble buried in an unmarked grave. We are talking about a literal god king, whose legacy absolutely shaped the modern world. His final resting place wasn't just a burial site, it was this massive epicenter of power. A monument purposefully designed to be seen and revered by millions of people. Yet despite its colossal significance, it is completely 100% gone, no trace. So, to understand how something so monumental could just disappear, we first need to understand the sheer gravity of the man whose body was actually inside it. Which brings us to Section 1, The Undefeated Conqueror, a Meteoric Rise. Let's move to and see how this builds, because to really get why his body became the ultimate symbol of victory, we just need a super quick refresher on his staggering timeline. Back in 336 BC, following the assassination of his father Philip II, a 20-year-old Alexander inherited the throne of Macedon. And man, he did not waste a single second. By 334 BC, he led an army of 35,000 soldiers straight into Anatolia, sparking this relentless, unstoppable campaign. Just 2 years later, 332 BC, he rolls into Egypt and founds Alexandria, a city that's going to become deeply, deeply intertwined with his own fate. And by 326 BC, after pushing through the harsh deserts and mountains of Central Asia, his army actually reached the Indus Valley. In just a single decade, he fundamentally redrew the entire map of the known world. And this brilliantly illustrates his unparalleled success. At its height, this vast territory stretched all the way from Greece down into Egypt and as far east as modern-day Pakistan. And here's the kicker. Alexander never lost a single battle. Not one. Even when he was wildly outnumbered, he just kept winning. He relied on his father's brilliant military reforms, these incredibly well-trained veteran troops, and honestly his own willingness to take massive risks, like literally leading cavalry charges himself straight into the heart of the enemy. He completely crushed the mighty Persian Empire, overthrew King Darius III. To his followers, he wasn't just a king anymore. He was this invincible force of nature. But that invincible run couldn't last forever. Section 2. A sudden, mysterious demise. The god king falls. 32. That is how old Alexander was when he died prematurely in Babylon in 323 BC. Now, while childhood mortality was definitely high in the ancient world, nobles who actually made it to adulthood, they routinely lived into their 50s or even well past their 70s. So for a man who had survived leading his troops from the absolute front lines, dodging death time and time again, to just suddenly collapse at 32, it was a massive, paralyzing shock to the ancient world. He had all these plans to conquer Arabia, build new cities, construct new harbors, and instead, he was just gone. And, as you might guess, his sudden death immediately sparked suspicion. Alexander was bedridden for about a week, suffering from a really severe fever, before he finally passed away. But because we have a total lack of reliable medical evidence from 323 BC, the competing theories just exploded. Was it alcoholism? He was definitely known as a heavy drinker. Or maybe it was the cumulative toll of his severe battle wounds, like that terrifying moment an arrow literally pierced his lung during his Indian campaign. Or, maybe it was just a natural fever, or grief over lost companions. Or could it have been a calculated assassination by his own men? We don't know for sure, but the uncertainty of his death perfectly mirrored the uncertainty of his empire's future. This leads us right into Section 3. The greatest body heist, the empire fractures. So because he left no clear heir, his death basically triggered this super bloody 40-year civil war known as the Wars of the Successors. Alexander's incredibly ambitious Macedonian generals viciously fought among themselves for dominance. It was absolute chaos. But eventually, the dust settled and that vast empire fractured into 3 distinct parts. You had Antigonus, who took control of Macedonia and the Greek city-states. Seleucus claimed the lion's share of the old Persian Empire over in Asia. And Ptolemy, he seized Egypt, establishing a really powerful new dynasty and essentially naming himself pharaoh.
Now, what's really interesting about all this is that simply dividing up the land wasn't enough for these guys. In late 321 BC, a plot of just absolute sheer audacity was set into motion. The target? Alexander the Great's elaborate funeral carriage. General Ptolemy realized a crucial fact. Whoever possessed the conqueror's talismanic corpse held the ultimate symbol of legitimacy. It's like a royal trump card. So in what has to be the greatest body heist in human history, Ptolemy literally hijacks the funeral procession. He seizes the body and brings it to his newly claimed territory in Egypt as this brilliantly calculated political power play.
Which brings us to Section 4, the glass coffin, a monument in Alexandria. Well, Ptolemy's heist was totally successful, and the body of the undefeated conqueror was eventually brought to the very city that bore his name, Alexandria. So the crucial point is that Alexander's body was not hidden away in some secret underground cavern to keep it safe from thieves. Quite the opposite, actually. It was proudly placed in an elaborate glass coffin housed right inside a magnificent, much-visited tomb. Alexandria itself was a city of breathtaking beauty. Think broad avenues lined with statues of Greek gods. And the tomb? It was a major attraction. It sat right among magnificent royal palaces overlooking the harbor, directly in the shadow of the Pharos, an enormous stone lighthouse that soared more than 350 feet into the sky, equipped with a massive, polished bronze mirror. Make no mistake, Alexander's tomb was one of the most famous, highly visible landmarks in the entire ancient Mediterranean world.
Section 5. Fading into History, the Ultimate Vanishing Act.
So we have to ask, how on earth does a monument of that massive scale, right in the center of one of the world's greatest cities, just disappear? That is the chilling fact that haunts archaeologists today. For centuries, you have to remember, the tomb remained this central, highly revered site. Roman emperors, historical luminaries, they all traveled just to see it. And yet, by the end of the 4th century AD, every single literary trace of the tomb's existence simply vanishes from the historical record, like it was erased. How? Well, modern historians point to a combination of absolute catastrophes. First, Alexandria was battered by a massive, catastrophic tsunami in 365 AD. That was followed by a series of devastating earthquakes and rising sea levels that literally plunged entire royal quarters completely underwater. Add to that the fact that the late 4th century saw intense religious upheaval, where pagan monuments were systematically dismantled or destroyed. So somewhere between the violent wrath of nature and the shifting political tides, the glass coffin and the talismanic corpse of Alexander simply faded into the silence of history. Which leaves us with this incredibly tantalizing question. Is Alexander's tomb still out there somewhere? I mean, today, Alexandria is this bustling modern metropolis of over 5 million people, all built directly on top of layers and layers of ancient history. So, could the glass coffin of the undefeated conqueror, the man who brought the known world to its knees in just a single decade, could it still be waiting in the dark, buried deep beneath those modern streets? It is, without a doubt, the ultimate archaeological mystery, and it's one that reminds us that even the greatest empires and the people who make them can ultimately be swallowed by time. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you next time.